Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. There are reports today coming out of Nevada that there's a glitch in the voting machines. The glitch just happens to cause Harry Reid's name to automatically be checked on the ballot before the voters indicate who they've chosen. One eyewitness, Joyce Ferrara, said, one person, that's a fluke. Two, that's a little strange. But with several in a 5-minute period, something's kind of wrong here. So, what do you do next? If there's a glitch in the voting machines, you of course call the technicians, right? Problem solved. Or is it? Guess who is in charge of the voting machines? This will boggle your mind. Who did we pick? Yeah, everybody's favorite union, including the president's. Oh, hello, voting machine fixers. We'll be right over. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Maybe they'll show up sometime between now and November 3rd. We'll get there and fix this. All right, this is like putting a wolf in charge of a hen house. It's like putting Andy Stern on the Fiscal Responsibility Board. He's made a living creating an economy-destroying pension system, so let's put him there. This is like putting the free market hater, Ron Bloom, in charge of manufacturing. Nothing's really changed, has it? I want to make this very clear. It might be a glitch. This technology is sensitive, and there will be errors. Some of them will be legitimate. But don't you think we have to trust the voting system? Because if we don't trust our voting system, it only leaves more strife, more chaos, and more distrust. You don't put an arsonist in charge of the fire investigation. You don't have SEIU fixing our voting machines, because they may define fixing the voting machine a little differently than you and I would define it. Maybe they're being honest. Maybe they're not. But in America, we need to be able to unite as Republicans and Democrats and say the vote is secure in reality and in appearance. Come on, a lot to do today. You see, I can't. Hello, America. I was in Denver, Colorado yesterday. I was in Minneapolis in the morning. Then I went to Mount Rushmore, and then I was in Denver. And when I got to Denver, I have to tell you something. I heard that Tom Tancredo might actually become the governor. I thought, you got to be kidding me. I've never seen any chart like it before. I cannot stress to you enough the importance of getting out to the polls for this election. I know my critics are, just think that I'm a shill for the GOP. Obviously, they don't watch this show. Tom Tancredo, he's crushing the Republican. Your first priority as an American should not be for the R or the D. They're meaningless. They are meaningless in the end. You vote for the candidate with honor and integrity, the one that stands for the Constitution, one that is for smaller government and cutting spending. That's my opinion. You vote however you want. That's what I look for. And if it's usually the Republican, but if it's the Republican, great. If it's an independent, great. If you think that fits the Democrats, well, okay. Joe Biden said this election is more important than 2008. I think that's actually the first thing that Joe Biden has said that I actually agree with, because America is at a crossroads. November 2nd will determine which road America will take. Will we start on the path to restoring honor and trust and common sense in Washington? Or will we continue down a road where anything goes, the ends justify the means, and people can just look at you and lie to your face, and there's no repercussions? Are we going to continue to live in a world where political games and political allies and the George Soroses of the world control everything? Have you noticed Nancy Pelosi and President Obama and his administration keep talking about the economy and how it's recovering, it's on the right track, and how they're saving jobs left and right? Watch.
We've been able to create or save 3.5 million jobs.
That legislation, according to The Economist, has saved or created 3.6 million jobs.
So we've made progress, and we're moving in the right direction.
We have turned this economy around. Instead of falling off the abyss, it is on firm ground, it is heading in the right direction, and every aspect of the economy is growing.
I don't know even what they said. I was just watching their stupid heads. Pelosi even demands credit for what she's done. Watch.
So you have all those forces at work of pouring millions and millions of dollars into the media and now into the campaigns
like
to
Soros.
mischaracterize everything that we did. But you're right, we haven't really gotten the credit for what we have done, but we will take it to the voters and have a Democratic majority to follow through.
We haven't really gotten credit. Oh, you're about to get credit for what you've done. Those with eyes, you know what? You could pluck my eyes out. Oedipus could see the reality on the ground, not improving here. Here's the reality, America. We have lost 3.3 million jobs since Obama took office. I want you to understand this. 3.3 million jobs lost under Obama. Remember when they said that unemployment, if we have passed the stimulus and if we do health care, will never go over 8% unemployment. It's now at 9.6. Now, they're talking about what a great job they were doing. But if you remember way back and get into the way back machine, you go way back to 2003, when job losses under George W. Bush after 9/11 and all the attacks and shattered economy and everything was starting to shimmy apart. Before the recovery started, George W. Bush lost roughly 3.2 million jobs. 3.2, 3.3. Well, do you remember what Nancy Pelosi was saying back then? Since President Bush took office, this country has lost 3.2 million jobs, the worst record since President Hoover. Today we learned that in July, nearly 500,000 people just gave up looking for a job. Okay, do you remember how he was the worst president since Herbert Hoover? Bigger number. Nearly identical numbers, but the R and the D's have just switched power. They just switched places, and they're like, I swear to you, sometimes in Washington it's just like, oh, it's your turn. I'm in the opposing party. Okay, hang on just a second. Where were we in the script again? I mean, they just switched the talking points. Here's your choice, America. More talking points from both the R's and the D's just to further their own political power, or you can go for the truth. And here is the truth on jobs. Government does not create jobs. They destroy jobs. I mean, unless you're talking about those great wealth-creating jobs of, the federal government jobs. I'm sick of candidates pandering to people and talking about all the fancy ways that they're going to create jobs. You know who I'm for? I'm for a candidate whose jobs platform is this. Hi, I just want you to vote for me because as a member of your government, I'm going to do everything in my power to reduce my power. I'm going to get government the hell out of the way of the free market system. I want you to understand, not out of the way of the criminals, not out of those people on Wall Street or the bankers that want to break all the rules and screw the little guy. No, no, no. But I'll get out of the way of the free market system and small businesses who in times of crisis create 80% of all new jobs in America. History tells us that. That guy's the guy I'll vote for. But nobody talks about that. Instead, here's a load of BS that we're being sold. Every single great idea that has marked the 21st century, the 20th century, and the 19th century has required government vision and government incentive. Wow, Joe Biden, what a claim that is. I didn't know that Bill Gates was working for the government when he created Microsoft. When he was sitting there in his underpants in his dad's garage and he's coming up with Microsoft, I didn't know that it was the government that inspired him. I didn't know that Henry Ford was working for the Department of Transportation when he came up with the assembly line. Or Samuel Morris's electric telegraph was from the government. Or Isaac Singer's sewing machine. Or Elijah Otis' elevator. How about William Carrier's air conditioner? Was this an idea that he got from the government? I thought these were just regular people who had an idea for products because they thought of them. No, no. Everything since 1800 has been inspired by the government. Look again what Biden says. Every idea has required government vision. Every idea. I don't think I've ever heard of an inventor in the history of mankind that thanks the government for inspiring their idea. Government cannot compete in the private sector, and in private sector ingenuity. Look what happens when they try. You have Federal Express Or you have the United States Postal Service. One makes millions of dollars and gets things on time. The other loses billions of dollars, and it's open with a huge line about 10 minutes a day. Government health care versus private health care. One has people drinking water from potted plants. The other has world leaders flying out of their own countries to get the care they can't get anywhere else in the world, and they get it here. Here's the truth. Government isn't driving ideas, it destroys ideas. It destroys almost everything in its wake. George Washington said that government is like fire. It's good unless it becomes the master of you. It must be treated as fire. The bigger our government grows, the less and less America produces. It's in the simplest terms. Do you remember the little girl with the lemonade stand who was shut down because she didn't have a permit? Yeah, they shut her down because she was supposed to have, it's a lemonade stand. Now theblaze.com is reporting on the latest scandal. Tax officials threatened to shut down a kid's pumpkin stand for lacking a proper permit. How is that inspiring any kid to grow up and start their own business? It doesn't inspire, it destroys. We have now had a century of progressive progress, government growing bigger and bigger. So what's left? What is left of our country? We've made all this progress. Look at it. Look at the size of the government from 1900 to 2000. Has it gotten bigger or smaller? Oh, sure, it's been Republicans and Democrats back and forth. Sure. But let's look at it over 100 years. Have the progressives grown the size of the government? What was the tipping point? Well, the tipping point, really, there was one in the 1970s when we went off the gold standard, then the late 1990s when the Fed started just creating bubble after bubble after bubble because we had to continue to spend. Well, let's look what's happened since the tipping point of the bubble years. These are just a few stats from BusinessInsider.com about the deindustrialization of America. You ready? Since 2001, the United States has lost 42,400 factories. We have shut them down. That's not jobs. That's 42,400 factories have been shut down in 9 years. 75% of those factories employed over 500 people. Times it by 500. That's how many jobs we've lost. In 2008, there were 1.2 billion cell phones sold in the world. How many of those cell phones, 1.2 billion cell phones, how many were made here in the USA? 0. If our trade deficit with China increases at its current rate, job losses due to the trade deficit with China this year alone, how many will we lose? $500,000 jobs just in our trade deficit. In America today, consumption accounts for 70% of our GDP. Of this 70%, half is spent on services. What does that mean? Going out to a restaurant. If we're just doing restaurants, what are we selling to China? Trade deficit. The United States has lost 1/3 of all of its manufacturing jobs since 2000. 1/3. The United States spends approximately $3.90 on Chinese products. So we send $3.90 over to them for every dollar they spend with us. Again, because we're just doing restaurants. We're manufacturing jobs. Some economists are projecting now that the Chinese economy will be 3 times larger than the U.S. economy by the year 2040. If that is true, aren't we the people that are making the little bamboo umbrellas for everybody's drinks? At the end of 2009, 12 million jobs in the U.S. were making something. They were manufacturing. Less than 12 million jobs in the U.S. When was the last time less than 12 million Americans were employed in manufacturing? $1941.